So, Srini, we talked about Scrum, TPM. Now we went very technical, right? We tried to understand like how technically how it is. But people who don't know about IT, how it works, and they are our viewers as well. How do you explain, a 7-year-old or a school student about what this role is about?
See, the role is about, let me take a real world example, right? You are running a restaurant,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the TPM role is more or less, right? The restaurant has many, many subparts of it, right? Where the cooking part is one thing, and serving part is another thing, and and the billing is one part of it, and parcel is another part. Take a real world example, right? What the TPM, right, in the whole ecosystem, right? So the TPM, the main duty is, right, somebody came to restaurant for having something, right, for idli or something, right? That is the intention of customer. The
Right.
customer is coming for restaurant for that. The TPM role is in order to serve that the food to the customer, right? He has to analyze what essentially required. There is a cooking unit. There is a groceries purchasing and cleaning and preparing everything.
Yes.
There is a billing system, right? There is a serving systems. He has to coordinate all these divisions. For his motto is like he want to serve food to the customer as and when they placed it. That is a triggering point. The TPM will see like whether the what are the groceries are required, as it is on the stock or not. If not, place an order to get it done. He is not doing everything, by the way. He has systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
He will say like systematically how it should flow. In the morning 4 o'clock, somebody has to go to market to get the ingredients what they require. Then second part is as soon as ingredients are in place, somebody has to cut and clean it and prepare for the cooking purpose. And then he has to tell cooking people there is some idli is we have to prepare 100 idlis for this today, right? And there is 50 people will come and they will take 2 idlis for each and 100 has to prepare. We'll tell like we have prepared things for 100.
Got it.
That is where that software industry, if you say it, is scaling, right?
Right.
When you build something, how to scale it.
Got it.
So then he will give instructions to the cooking people like, hey, do this one, right? They will prepare as per the needs, right? Given by the TPM. And then there is a billing counter, where the billing counter has to give a receipt to the people as when they place an order.
Right.
He has to make sure that the idli is 10 rupees, 20 rupees, or 30 rupees, or something he has to tell it. That system will get updated. They will issue that receipt. As soon as they receive the receipt to the customer, they'll come back to the counter to place an order. They will give the receipt to the parcel people or serving people, and they will give that things to the customer. How this entire ecosystem is working? Right?
Got it.
If you say TPM, is TPM a supervisor in the
Everything.
restaurant? Is monitoring every unit is functioning as expected. What is required to make it happen?
Got it.
In the software, if you relate the same, when you take up the project, what are the requirements? What the customer is going to use it? What we are going to build it? What the product managers is defining the strategy? What is the development team is going to build the solution, put the solution, and then build the solution, and then finally the quality assurance, how they verify the things as per the needs in the product.
Got it.
And then deliver to the customer, and then seek the customer feedback and pass on to the internal system to make the revision of the system, right? Is the TPM is doing that.
Absolutely, that is a great explanation. That it helps people to connect with the thoughts that you have, and how how they can relate to this job as well and the role as well.
Yes.
That was really helpful. Let me ask you one question that is quite different from the things that we have been discussing. Now, companies like Amazon and Google have always this option of you can move out of India and you can go and settle in US, and I've seen many of my friends do that. To be very honest, at one point even I was thinking of doing that, but I see you have been part of similar companies as well. While I have my thought process of why I have not gone there, but I would want to hear from you, like. Um, if I have to compare staying in abroad versus staying in India, and why did you choose India to stay and grow your career here? Like, if you could, throw some light on this specific.
Yeah,
question.
definitely. It is purely my personal choice being in India. I want to close to my parents. I want to close my family, and I stayed abroad in the past. It's not like I didn't go. I stayed there. Somehow I was not comfortable abroad because I feel always like I'm away from my family.
Okay.
That is where the point was. It's not nothing, right? It is everyone aspiration to be in abroad, and things are very easy in abroad, very systematic, and whatever you think, you will get it. India is it's very different compared to abroad, but it's my personal choice. If you ask me advice, where you like want to be, right? What I suggest to the people is that you assess yourself, right? A versus B or apple versus orange, right? Which one is giving more joy to you?
Got it.
Which one is more enjoyable? Somewhere like if you see, right? If you go to US, I'll take an example of I was in Japan for more than 3 years. If you combine the total time, and if you thought like some government stuff is needed and you go there and they'll direct you to do the things and they'll give ETA and by the time it will be done. There is no follow-up required on that.
Yeah.
But in India, I'm not criticizing per se. I don't take it me into that one. But it is a little bit slow compared to the abroad, right?
Absolutely.
As
No,
a
that is
person,
understandable.
you see like where you want to be, right? You will get a lot more things being abroad. You'll also get a lot more things in being in India. It is a
Yeah.
personal choice to me, if you ask
Yeah,
me.
it was a similar kind of choice.
But
to
but
me.
as you see that being in abroad, being in not abroad per se, being close to your team, where decision making is happening, it will be an added advantage, right?
No,
you
that's
you assess
very true.
that where you're close to the team where everything is happening. For an example, if some software is entirely being developed in India, it is good to be in India.
Yeah.
Right? If it is happening in US, it's good to be in US because you are well connected with the system and you can see like how it is shaping up over a period.
Right. If you have to give some guidance to youngsters of what should they do in order to uh, come to this role, because if you see, right, many a times I as a person never wanted to do product management. It was only when I started working in a consulting firm and then I started realizing that this is not what I want to do, but this is something that I want to do, when I started hearing people talking about that, and I slowly moved to that career. So this is something that people will get to know from this video. If a youngster is watching who is in his engineering, he wants to be a program manager, what would be your guidance to him? Like, what should you do to, like, should he stay very close to tech, or should he be very close to processes, or what kind of certifications that you do? What are the things that he should do so that he comes to a level where he can say that I want to be a program manager, these are the things that I have done, and hence I should apply for this job? Like, what would be your suggestion to him?
Yeah, the multiple points are there. Thanks, Hugo, for this question. It will be very difficult to give a apt kind of answer to this one, but I'll try my level best to give a short of it.
Sure.
So the thing is, somebody want to build career in this space for a while, right? It is there is no proper material is available, to be frank, in the market. Because when you go to software engineering, you know that data structures you have to be very well through, and you have to do very good in coding and problem solving, etc.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a product manager, there is a lot of material is also available. Like you have to vision, and you have to see what you're trying to solve it, and you have to see how customer is going to love it. So it is very well defined, but TPM, it's catching up. Like the web also has materials available. Somebody want to be in this role, visualizing that they want to pursue career in this space, right? So you should be a person know how well you are in terms of coordinating the teams,
Right.
building the rapport with the team, and building the consensus in the team, right? Solving them, and put the chaining, right? If a train want to go from one place to another place. There are a lot of things in the behind the scene, like how things has to be right. So if your person is well aware of how ecosystem works,
Right.
what are the components or systems are required, and connecting them and building a wrappers, right, to solve it, removing the lot of assumptions and put processes in the place where systematically, even if you're not there, things will flow.
Got it.
Right? You have to have a you have to have a process in place where everybody follow it. If they follow it, all things will be in place end of the day, where your presence is not so very much required. So you don't need to be in the too deep into the technology, right? You don't need to be.
Yeah.
Right? I'll talk about general trend about roles and all a little later, but you don't need to be. But you have to apply a lot of times your common sense.
Mm-hmm.
How it is going to be? Is it really required? How end user think about this one? You may be building a very awesome product, but usability is a drawback in the product. It will not give the result what you expected. You have to look into all the factors. Right? When you look into all the factors, you will not have time to go in one particular area into the deeper. If you have time, you go ahead, but you don't need to. You should know what you are building it in technical and project management, communication, and the processes. You should be aware of it, not details required.
So-
Broader way, right? You have to understand it, and you apply your common sense. Build a relationship with the people. That is one good factor I want to practice.
Yeah.
You have to build the relationship factor, because you will not come with authority. You will not have any authority on anybody, but you have to deliver it. You have to move the things. How you will move the things? Only with building relationship.
Right.
Being a market manager, product manager, engineering manager, or engineering leads, engineering teams, quality assurance manager, quality assurance teams, and delivery manager, delivery teams. Be it ecosystem, you have to have a good relationship with everyone so that the things will flow automatically. That is one thing.
So it's basically you're talking about influence without authority that we
Correct.
use a lot. in
Correct.
this.
Correct.
Right,
That is a.
right.
If you have a more influence without authority, you'll be more successful in the industry. You'll be having very seamless, religious will happen, right? And that way, the relationship is very, very important.
Absolutely.
So
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah, one other point I'll tell you with my experience throughout how engineering manager, what is the product manager, and the program manager. So if you see one line statement, if you want to define for this one, right, the product manager is a person what they want to build. For an example, if you want to go to Amazon, people who want to look at the product, they want to see product description, they want to take a call whether they want to buy it or not. The product manager has to visualize. A customer is coming to the website and looking at the products. What is required for them to
Right.
take decisions?
Right.
What is the main important for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is it important? Is not important? You have to say like. You have to wear the customer's shoes and see that if I'm a customer, how I look at it. Why? What is the things will influence me to purchase that?
Purchase that, yeah.
That's where the product manager has to think. The engineering manager, in order to place everything, what is required to build it?
Got it.
What is the stack I want to use it? What are the easiest way to build it? What is required to build it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
They will go into deeper to
Yeah.
see like how I can put a solution where I can extend horizontally or vertically if required.
Yeah.
That is one thing. The TPM will think about when to build it. Right? So it will also involve some part of how to build it. The when and how is important, right?
Right.
They will see who else is required. For example, you want to build the product page. What all the teams are involved?
Mm-hmm.
How they are going to build it? How you're going to integrate it? How you're going to deliver it?
Right.
That's where the TPM is more engaged, right? That way the roles are split. It is not like a completely different circle altogether. There are sometimes the circles are overlapped.
So
You
these
can
are
see
the
the
primary three
the
circles
primary
of the
three
product
things.
management.
If three are jointly together, right? If three are in the same page, I will call it as I've seen in the past where the teams are more successful, right? So they deliver very very fast way, and I don't see any confusions around it because all three are jointly own it
Yeah,
and jointly deliver it, and it works very well. The combination is very well. Like if three are very disjoint, right? Things are very confusing states, right? When you want to be successful, all three should be
absolutely. Yeah, I do understand. Like for me, the what definition is what I go after, and mostly we come to you when we need when, how,
yeah.
coordinate, legal, and what all are required is something that you facilitated most of the time to deliver our products. And while the engineer is more on the lines of how do we scale it upwards or horizontally, what kind of customers are going to come in future, how do we scale it over a period of time,
Yep.
all these
Yep.
things. But it really helps that. So, Srini, just a segue from we have been talking about career a lot. This is a very kind of intriguing question that I'm going to put. I don't know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
We have heard a lot about you playing sports,
Yeah.
right? You have been into sports. I know that you ball pretty fast. I've heard of 140 kph, and for that, like, how has sports played an important role in playing it? In framing your career.
Definitely, this is a very good question. Really, no sports inspired me in three pillars. I'll take one is essentially one thing is the first pillar is uh, you believe in yourself. That's the first thing I always feel like. If you don't believe yourself, you can't put your 100%, right? So
Agree.
that is the first thing. And second one is never give up. You always fight it.
Yeah.
Every game you won't win it, right? You will be up and downs, right? Never give up. Always fight for it, right? And the third one is more importantly is discipline. When you want to win, right, you have to put a lot of practice in place. It is not like it will not come overnight. When you want to practice a bowling, right, you have to put a discipline, right? You have to practice a lot to produce that pace, right? And that three things definitely help me in the current role that I'm playing, right? Always you try till last minute, right? Don't give up. Like nothing is not going to work and all. When you are delivering a large program, you have to be very disciplined.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very disciplined in terms of how you're putting things forward. Rigorously, you have to look into that. Um, Today we have to complete this. Tomorrow we have to complete another thing, and we have to talk to product team. You have to talk to marketing team. You have to talk to engineering team, right? You have to give. You have to have 10 things in our plate. You have to close it out before giving that one. So the discipline is more help me, right? So these three things I have taken from the sports, right? If sports were not there, the failures I encountered in the past, right? I would have given up long back.
Yeah.
Right? Don't give up till you see success, right? It will not come overnight.
Got it.
Right? When we played in childhood for cricket, right? Always we lose a match.
Yeah.
But we'll take the essence of it, why we lose the match, right? Why we lost the match, right? Maybe we didn't played as a team. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't play as a team, even if the team has very good players, you will not be on the winning side. When you put average players as a complete teamwork, you'll be in winning side.
Yes.
Only the matter is how you composed and disciplined and all.
Absolutely.
Definitely, the sports help me.
True. That is
And
so true.
that's where maybe I feel sometimes the TPM role it happened by God grace. It's not the path I choose it, right? It happened all of a sudden when I'm switching to Amazon. But this sports has played a vital role because those are very important for TPM. Luckily, I came from the sports background that helped me.
Srini, now when we look at TPM as a career, right? Many people, when they encounter these new roles, right? Now TPM is a fairly known role to us, but might not be known to a lot of people who are aspiring to become or start their career. So, if you could throw some light on how financially rewarding is this career as a TPM, right?
Okay, sounds good. One thing, financial part of it is TPM is well positioned in industry in terms of financially. It is not like it is like a median in the range. It is not low. It is not too high. I don't want to disclose the numbers. It varies from the company to company because some companies the TPM is very important role.
Mm-hmm.
For an example, Amazon is the TPM is equivalent to the SDM.
Oh, wow.
Only the people management activities and hiring activities is different in the role description, but in the decision making, in execution, in overall delivery, more or less same, right? Equally they played. They change the hats based on the situation. Sometimes the TPM can act like a SDM, and they will take SDM duties and deliver it. Sometimes vice versa. If TPM is not present in the team, SDM also will take care of TPM activities. So it varies from the organization to organization, but it is well positioned in the financial part of it if you want to pursue the career, right? So you'll be rewarded based on the challenges you take it, right? It's what sort of challenges you are solving it. The ladder also will be positioned in the same way, right? You quickly take it up some challenges. For an example, in Amazon, right? You were taking up a new initiative altogether, like they want to launch a new subscription program in a market, or when you want to launch a new marketplace altogether.
Mm-hmm.
When you take up that challenges, the breadth is so high. You have to have a lot of challenges in terms of communication, stakeholder management, and execution and all. When you deliver successfully, the rewards also will come into the similar ways.
Got it.
It is a like a purely individual how they take it up the challenges. Some people I see in my career very conservative in terms of taking the challenges. They'll be rewarded in the similar ways. When you are aggressive in career and want to take new challenges, solve the complex problems, the rewards are on the way, right?
Got it.
And another point also I will highlight here. When you want to switch the career at some point in time, you want to add more into your career or the profession. Like I want to get into the people management activities. I want to get into the hiring and grow the talent in the company and something. It is easy to switch the professions because
Got it.
you are more or less doing same set of activities. Uh, uh, Close to that other role, for an example, Amazon, right? TPM to SDM conversion is very easy.
Got it.
Some organization you have to go through some review process, but it's not difficult.
Understood.
When you switch back to other roles, you see like is it inspiring you to be in that role? If it is, then you can switch the role and come back it. So the financial rewarding, it is in mid range. For an example, if I take Amazon as an example, the TPM is equally played in other roles, right? A product manager and then TPM, like that. In other companies, equally they played it. So it is good in terms of being in TPM and solve the complex problems. So you will get rewards and equal.
Yeah. So now we have TPM careers, like people in as TPM in different talks, but in the end, the goal is always that I would reach to any of these MAN companies. Like I want to join Meta, I want to join Amazon, Netflix, Google. So now you have been part of two of those companies, right? You have been part of Amazon, you have been part of Google. So what is your guidance to them of how to apply to these jobs and how to prepare for these jobs? Like I personally know that the interview process for a product, a guy, is very different in these jobs, right? Amazon is completely different, Google is completely different than the other companies that I've given interviews for. Now, you as a TPM, if someone is a program manager in a product company that is not so well known, maybe a startup, or his product company and retail product company, what are the things that he should think of when he starts applying, or what are the scope, or what are the things that he should learn when he wants to apply to these specific orgs, which are purely tech driven?
Sure. Before getting into the details, what you need to prepare, I want to give a differentiation.
Sure.
Some confusion around like what is TPM versus PGM, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very simple example I want to highlight here. So essentially there is no difference in terms of the roles. It can be TPM, it can be PGM. in development organizations, the one you mentioned, Mang. Only one difference is that when TPM, technically he's pioneered and he can take a decision by himself, or he can build the consensus and put like what decision works for the team. He's in a position to take the decision. Whether he is empowered to take decision, it's subjective, but he is in position to take the decision. A TPM hat. When he is a PGM hat, he is not well positioned in terms of taking the technical decisions. What expected in the role is that he will build the consensus in the team. He will take a tech lead or an engineering manager or somebody expert in that field to take the decisions. He will rely on the people in terms of taking the decisions. But in case of a TPM, he's in position to take decisions.
Got it.
It's subject to in the overall execution how it will take. That is want to clear it.
Mm.
So that the people who want to get into these roles are clear, like what is expected, right? The second part of the question is that what is required to crack the interviews in these companies, right? So the four pillars what I told is good in technical, good in communication, good in stakeholder management, and processes. This one. So the more or less interview is spread across all these pillars. They will touch base each equally, right? So there are two set of questionnaires these companies will ask. One is hypothetical questionnaires and one is behavioral kind of questions. You have to prepare your answers from previous executions, right? For an example, I will tell one example to the audience so that they will understand. So in the previous organizations where we heavily UI development, so some small issue also will be highlighted in the user front, right?
Yeah.
So we have a code review process in place, and we follow that when you're releasing it. But in close to that, the urgent releases. So one review process, there are test escapes, right? That cause bad customer experience, right? So what the processes we put for this kind of initiatives is that, so we put two CR review process. Got it, right? One CR process sometimes is giving the lever for test escapes. We put two CR process for urgent ones, not regular the releases. Any urgent releases, two review process. One is missed out, other one catch. So that it's not completely we get rid of that bad customer experiences, but it significantly reduces the bad customer experience. So you have to take out the processes you put for the team, right? And similarly, tech part of it, right? You have to, when the problem is given to you, you have to visualize holistic system how it is, right? For an example, somebody is building retail applications.
Mhm.
You have to understand the ecosystem how it is, right? What is required. You don't need to get into that technical how DB systems work. That's not required, but you have to have fair idea how systems are. You prepare the previous examples enough, and go through that and try to see if a situation is given. For an example, a hypothetical situation, they may ask you, right? You have identified very good initiative in day-to-day journey. You want to put a proposal to your VP and secure a funding for your initiative. How you do it, right? So you have to put a proposals in day-to-day situations and go to that leadership and get the funding for that one to do it. So you have to see what are opportunities are there, right? And similar stakeholder management. There will be a lot of things are coming into the plate to you every day. It don't need to prioritize all, right? You technically can't. You have to see assessment what you will prioritize, what you will not prioritize, why you will not prioritize, what is the behind scene with the data points. Right. You have to go to the stakeholders and convince them. Among this is the priorities. This will improve on it. If something is not ready yet, go back to them saying that there is some sections are missing. Fill it. We'll keep it in backlog and do it. The communication will help, right? And then coming to that execution, right? You have to see examples what upstream is not giving the data what you want. How you plan the things, right? How you coordinate things to them hey, this is the dependency for our to release it. Can you do it? Identify the people. solve it. So these are the things you require in detail. You have to find examples in that.
Okay. So you build from your prior experience, build
Experience.
examples, and portray those examples in those interviews to telling that, these are my experiences, these have been my learning, and this is how I have done these things.
Correct.
Am I right?
Given the situation, it's not like you will be quoting always a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, you have to justify your hypothesis. Like, given a situation, I will do this one. This is hypothetical, right? I will do this one. You see like pros and cons for the decisions what you're making.
Right.
The decision may be wrong, right? End of the day. But why you convince the decision, that is very important. If you're in position to convince yourself, right? This is how I thought, and this is the factors behind the scene. I considered it. This is the pros and cons. People will reward for that.
Got it.
It is not like all the time you will be giving a very good example to the question they ask you, but you have to justify the answer what you're providing to them.
That is more important.
More
Absolutely.
important.
Understand that.
So that way you have to keep everything. And the another important factor I will do, the interview is not always one side of it. It is two-way communications. You have to drive the conversations. It's not like they ask some questions and you are answering to that. Get the clarifications as much as you, right? Somebody asks like, can you design a maps, Google Maps in interview? You have to ask to whom you are designing maps. What kind of devices you are planning to roll it out? Is it a web? Is it a mobile? Is it Android? Is it iOS? What kind of modes you want to try it out, offline or online? What are the network things you want to monitor? Is it seamlessly work in 4G, or it has to work in 3G? It has to work on 2G. It has to work on feature phones or smartphones. What categories? You have to get all the set of questionnaires. That is a requirement analysis you do.
Yeah.
When you go and join as a TPM in organizations, you have to do this due diligence in the interview process. It is a two-way conversation. You will get the clarity. Once you get the clarity, and you have to put a proposal like how you build it, right? When you make some assumptions, you have to tell like this is an assumption I made it. For an example, there is a 2G connections. The latency will be 2 seconds. I'm making it this assumption because when you want to build everything seamlessly,
you have to
invest a lot.
Yeah.
Right? When you give the proposal, you have to put the assumptions, you call out clearly. This is the one. Though the interview will be two-way conversations and they will like you.
Got it.
When you don't know something, you have to accept honestly. I'm not aware of it, but I thought this way it's solved. It may or may not.
Right. Srini, if I ask you how is a good or a bad day for a program manager in his job role?
It's a difficult question. Good day, I have to recollect. Is there any good day? But always, it's not a bad day. By the way, you get continuous challenges, right? That is it will be always surprise too. Like the day you close, that everything is done, and tomorrow will be brighter. When you come to the office morning, or when you start the work in the morning, you see surprises. But the things are working may not work. The things something we all tested, having some bugs. So it is not bad days. I can't say like it's bad days. These continuous challenges you here, right? You will solve it. So that's where you will see it is not like a very planned way the life will go to for others how it is. It is always fluctuations you see, and you will solve the challenges. You will get opportunity to solve it, right? When you solve the problem, you'll be getting joy, right? And that is where I call it. If you see more bad days, but I treat them as the challenges. I treat them as the opportunities. Right? So then I see what is the value I'm adding to that things, right?
Yeah.
So when you say good day, generally you set up a program launch on January 20th, and you complete everything by January 15th. And you say I have Fridays a breathing time to revalidate everything and set for the release on 20th. But generally it won't happen.
It never happens.
It never happens. But if it happens, that's good to me. But I rarely count those days in my last 7 years career. doesn't
Yeah.
happen the way you plan it.
So
But how you react to the situations is more important.
yeah.
Quickly, take the decisions and see the pros and cons and move around it. Is always opportunity as a TPM to solve it and launch it as planned.
So this is actually for a job for people who want to be on their toes most of the time, because uh, I have seen him working day in day out, and he's always on his toes. So yeah, if you are interested, it is a good one to do. Like there are people who seek challenges in life, and this will be a very good job role for you to think of if you want to.